All right. So have you ever just sat there and thought like, man, I wish I had this, or I wish I was doing that, instead of, actually like getting it?
Hmm.
Like, wouldn't it be awesome if you could just like think something and it would happen?
Right.
Well, that's kind of what we're looking at today, right? That whole concept of manifestation. We've got this podcast episode all about it, got some tips and tricks, and you're going to want to take notes. Trust me.
Yeah, and this is really interesting to me because, manifestation is having a real moment.
Yeah,
It's not just some weird thing that people on the fringes are doing.
right.
Like, people are really wondering if this is legit. Can you actually change your reality just with your mind?
When it's almost like everyone secretly wants there to be a shortcut
Yeah,
to success or happiness or whatever, right?
definitely.
So let's just unpack this. What is manifestation anyway?
Okay, so at its heart, manifestation is really about aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and actions with the reality you want to experience. It's like you become a magnet, but for like the stuff you want in your life.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard of the law of attraction,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of
like attracts like and all that.
Yeah.
So if you really focus on the good stuff and truly believe that you can reach your goals, then it's, more likely you're going to attract those good things.
Okay, I got to be honest, that like attracts like thing always seemed a little too simple to me.
Yeah.
Is there any like actual science behind this, or is it just, kind of out there?
Yeah, no, I get it. It can sound a little woo-woo,
Right.
but stick with me. There's actually some interesting psychology at play here.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the Reticular Activating System?
The what?
The RAS.
No.
Okay, so think of this like as your brain's personal assistant.
Okay.
It sorts through a ton of information, right, that you're just bombarded with every day.
Right.
And then it's like, hey, this is important to what you're doing right now.
Oh, so it's like filtering everything out so you can focus on what matters.
Exactly. Now, think about that in terms of manifestation. Let's say you're, I don't know, thinking about starting a business.
Okay.
Your RAS, it starts highlighting anything to do with that. So you might randomly see an article about someone who started a business.
Right.
Or you overhear a conversation about starting a business. Or you see a building and you're like, oh, that would be perfect for my business.
So what, those things were always there, but my brain just wasn't like seeing them.
Yeah. It's like when you buy a new car and then all of a sudden that's all you see on the road.
Oh, that's true.
Your brain is primed to notice it.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happening with manifestation. The more you focus on what you want, the more you start to see the way to get it.
That's pretty cool.
Mm.
But it still feels a little passive,
Okay.
Like if I want a new job, am I just supposed to sit around and imagine it?
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
Where does the actual doing something part come in?
That's a really good question. And it's actually something a lot of people misunderstand about manifestation. It's not about sitting back and waiting for something to poof, appear.
Right.
You got to take action.
Oh.
But it's about making sure that action is lined up with what you want.
Oh, so it's kind of like you do the work and the universe opens up the doors.
Yeah, you got it. And this is where the subconscious mind comes in.
Okay.
It's crazy. Your subconscious controls like 95% of what you do.
95.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It's like there's another you running the show behind the scenes.
So how do you tap into that then?
Well, that's where all those practical tips come in. Our source material breaks it down into 5 steps to help you manifest successfully.
Okay, I'm ready. What's number 1?
Number 1 is clarity. You have to know exactly what you want. Don't be vague.
Okay.
So don't just say, I want to be happy. Like, what does that mean for you? What would make you happy? What would that look like?
So instead of I want a new job, it's like I want a job that lets me be creative and work with people.
Yes. And the more detail you can add, the better.
Okay.
Like really paint that picture in your mind.
Okay.
And that brings us right to step 2, which is visualization.
Okay, I've heard about visualization. Does that stuff really work? I just like close my eyes and imagine I'm rich.
Maybe not quite like that, but visualization is more than just seeing the end result.
Yeah.
It's about really experiencing it.
Hmm.
So close your eyes and imagine you already have that thing you want. How does it feel? Like, what are you doing? What does your day look like? Really use your senses. What are you seeing, hearing, smelling, even tasting?
Right.
The more real you can make it, the more powerful it is.
So I'm not just daydreaming.
Right.
I'm actually training my brain to believe that this is actually going to happen.
Yes, exactly. You're strengthening the connection between what you want and the belief that you can get it.
Right. Okay. And then that takes us to step 3, belief.
Yes, belief. You have to truly believe you can achieve this thing.
Okay, but what if you, like, have a lot of doubts? Sometimes those negative thoughts can be really loud.
That's normal. Everyone has doubts, but that's where affirmations can be really powerful.
Okay.
Just start saying positive things to yourself, even if you don't fully believe them at first.
Right.
Like, I am capable of achieving my dreams, or I am worthy of abundance.
I am worthy of abundance.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you say those things, the more they start to sink into your subconscious. They replace those negative thoughts, like rewiring your brain for success.
Instead of focusing on what you can't do, it's focusing on what you can do.
Yes, exactly. Now remember, belief takes time. It's not an overnight thing. It's a process. But the more you work on it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, so we've got clarity, visualization, and belief. What's next? What about the actually doing stuff part?
You're ready for some action, huh?
Yeah.
I thought you might be. So step 4 is all about taking action.
All right, lay it on me.
Now, this is really important. Hold on. Before you, quit your job or anything.
Okay.
Manifestation isn't about making rash decisions.
Okay.
Think of it this way. The universe is constantly giving you opportunities, but you have to, see them and take them.
So be proactive.
Yes, exactly. If you want to write a book, don't just visualize the book,
Right.
Start writing. Do some research. Reach out to other writers.
Right.
Take those little steps, consistent steps, and make sure they feel good.
So it's less about forcing and more about creating the right environment for things to happen.
Exactly. Okay, ready for the 5th and final step.
Hit me.
This one's all about gratitude.
Oh, gratitude.
Yeah, a lot of people skip over this, but it's super important.
Okay.
Because when you're grateful for what you already have, it's like you're telling the universe, hey, I'm ready for more good stuff.
Right. It's like switching from focusing on what you don't have to focusing on what you do have.
Exactly. And gratitude is something you can practice. Start each day listing a few things you're grateful for. It doesn't matter how small they are, and you'll be amazed at how much it changes your perspective.
I like that, yeah. Okay, that all sounds great, but let's back up for a second. You mentioned some common mistakes earlier. What are some ways people mess up when they're trying to manifest things?
Oh, yeah, good point. I actually think your own personal story is a perfect example of one of the biggest mistakes people make.
Oh, what, you want me to tell an embarrassing story?
No, not embarrassing. I'm talking about when you were trying to manifest a new apartment a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. That didn't really work out so well.
Right, but I think it'll really resonate with our listeners.
Okay, so a few years ago, I was living in this tiny studio apartment, and I, hated it.
Right.
I really wanted to move. And I was spending hours picturing my dream apartment. It was big, it was bright, it had a balcony with a view of the park. I was even, mentally picking out furniture and stuff.
You were really into it, but what happened? Why didn't it work?
That's the embarrassing part.
Yeah.
I got so caught up in the daydreaming that I forgot to actually do anything. I didn't look for any listings or call my real estate agent or anything.
Yeah.
I was so busy thinking about what I didn't have that I totally missed all the steps I needed to take to actually get it.
And that right there is the classic mistake of focusing on the lack. When you're always dwelling on what you don't have, you just reinforce that feeling.
Right.
And ironically, it pushes away the very thing you're trying to attract.
It's like I was sending a message to the universe saying, I need a new apartment, please help me.
Yeah, kinda.
So I should have been focusing on how awesome it would feel to have that apartment.
Exactly. You got to focus on the feeling of already having what you want.
Right.
So even though you don't have it yet, you can still experience the emotions of having it.
Okay, so instead of obsessing about my crummy studio, I should have been focusing on the feeling of space, freedom, all that good stuff I imagine feeling in my dream apartment.
Exactly. Shift that mindset from scarcity to abundance. And this doesn't just apply to material things either. It's for relationships, careers, health, everything.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be hard to stay positive when you're facing challenges,
Right.
What about impatience?
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a big one, especially in today's world.
Impatience is a big one. You're right. We live in a world where everything is instant.
Right.
But manifestation, it takes time. It's not about forcing things. It's about trusting that it's all unfolding as it should.
Like planting a seed.
Yeah.
You can't keep digging it up to see if it's growing.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it.
You got to trust that it's happening, even if you can't see it yet.
And that's where a lot of people give up. They try a few things, don't see results, and they're like, nope, this doesn't work.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
So how do you stick with it when it feels like nothing is happening?
Well, that's where those daily practices we talked about come in: the affirmations, the visualization, and especially the gratitude. The more you focus on what you're grateful for, the more you create a feeling of abundance, like trusting that the universe is working for you.
So gratitude is like the cure for impatience.
Pretty much, yeah.
Instead of thinking about what's missing, you're appreciating what you have.
Yeah.
And that helps you stay positive and trust the process.
Exactly. And the universe, it doesn't always work on our timeline.
True.
Sometimes there are delays or roadblocks, but that doesn't mean it's not working. It just means there might be some lessons to learn.
Right. It's not always a straight line.
Nope.
But if you stay focused on your goals, keep doing the work, it'll all work out in the end.
Exactly. And this brings us to another big mistake. Inaction.
Inaction.
Yeah. So we talked about taking action, but some people, they get so into the visualizing and the affirmations that they forget to actually do anything.
It's like you get so excited about the dream that you forget you have to actually, work towards it.
Exactly. It's like wanting to be a musician but never actually practicing. You can picture yourself on stage, but if you never pick up the instrument, it's never going to happen.
So you got to balance the inner work, the visualization and stuff, with the outer work of actually doing things in the real world to get closer to your goal.
Exactly. And remember, action doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing. Small, consistent steps are key, especially when they're aligned with what you want.
Okay, so this is all making sense. But how do you know what action to take? I mean, if you have a big goal like starting a business, how do you know where to start?
That's a great question. And it brings us to a really cool part of manifestation. Intuition.
Intuition, like your gut feeling.
Yes, that inner voice that tells you what's right for you.
Okay.
Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's loud, but it's always there.
So how do you, separate your intuition from your fears and doubts? Those can be pretty loud, too, sometimes.
Good question. We could probably do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, probably.
But for now, let me give you a couple of tips. First, try to find some quiet time every day. Whether it's meditating, spending time in nature, whatever works for you, just get away from the noise and reconnect with yourself.
So you can actually hear your intuition.
Exactly. And also, pay attention to your body. Your intuition often speaks through physical sensations.
Really?
Yeah. So you might feel really excited when you're in alignment with your intuition, or you might feel really tense or anxious if something's off.
So my body is like a guide.
Exactly. If it feels good, it's probably right. If it feels bad, it's probably a sign to stop and rethink.
Okay, what else?
And lastly, trust that your intuition is leading you in the right direction, even if it doesn't make sense logically. Sometimes those intuitive nudges, they seem crazy or scary, but they often lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
It's like trusting the process, even when you don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes manifestation so powerful. It's not about controlling the universe. It's about aligning yourself with it and letting things unfold as they should.
This is so cool. But have you ever, personally manifested something, a story that really convinced you that this stuff works?
Actually, yeah, I do have a story, something that really stands out for me.
Okay.
It was a few years ago, and I was feeling really stuck in my career.
Okay, so I'm really curious about this story now.
Okay, so where was I? Oh, yeah, feeling stuck.
Yeah, career was like blah.
Yeah, it wasn't bad,
All right.
but it wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. I knew I wanted something, more creative, more intellectually stimulating.
Yeah.
But I was totally frozen by that fear of the unknown.
That fear can be paralyzing, right?
Totally. And that's exactly when manifestation came in for me. I started by figuring out exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
And not just like a job title.
Right.
But the actual feelings I wanted to experience at work.
Okay.
Like a sense of purpose.
Right.
Intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
Creative expression, things like that.
So you were focusing on the feeling of the thing.
Exactly. I even made a vision board with images that represented those feelings.
You were really setting the stage for this.
I was. But the biggest shift happened when I started taking action.
Okay.
Remember we talked about intuition?
Yeah, like that gut feeling.
Yeah. Well, I started paying more attention to those little nudges. Like, my friend told me about this workshop.
Okay.
It was on something I'd always been interested in, but never really pursued.
Right.
But I felt this pull to go,
So you went even though it wasn't directly related to your job search?
Yeah, and it turned out to be this huge turning point.
Really?
Yeah. Not only did it reignite my passion for learning, but I met people who were actually doing the kind of work I wanted to do.
No way.
And, one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was offered a job.
Get out.
And it was exactly what I had been visualizing.
That's amazing. So the universe totally orchestrated everything.
Yeah. But it all started with me taking that first step.
Right.
Trusting my gut.
And putting myself out there.
Your story is so inspiring. It really shows how those 5 steps work together.
Right.
It wasn't just wishing and hoping, it was doing the work and then letting the universe do its thing.
That's it. Definitely a partnership.
So, okay, we've talked about the science, the steps, the mistakes people make, and we even heard your awesome story.
Yeah.
What's the biggest takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to remember?
I think the most important thing is that manifestation is a real tool to create the life you want, but it's not magic.
Yeah.
It's about consciously choosing your thoughts, beliefs, and actions and aligning them with what you truly desire.
And it's a practice.
Absolutely.
It's not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's about making those 5 steps: clarity, visualization, belief, action, gratitude, part of your everyday life.
And trusting the process.
Yes, trust the process.
Yeah.
Okay, listeners, now it's your turn. What one thing are you going to try manifesting this week? Use those steps we talked about.
Yeah, be clear.
Visualize.
Yivi.
Take action and be grateful.
And most importantly,
Trust the process.
don't be afraid to start small.
Yeah, even something like finding a parking spot or having a sunny day can help you build that trust.
I love that.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe those small wins will lead to even bigger things.
Absolutely. The universe loves to reward action.
Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey into manifestation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you feel inspired to start creating the life of your dreams.
Happy manifesting, everyone.
So you were saying you felt stuck in your career a while back.
Yeah, a few years back. It wasn't a bad job or anything.
Right.
Just, I don't know, it wasn't really lighting me up inside,
I get it.
I knew I wanted something different, something more creative,
Okay.
more intellectually stimulating. But I was honestly scared to make a change.
It's tough to leave that comfort zone.
It really is. And that's when I really started diving deep into this whole manifestation thing. I started by really getting clear on what I wanted. And I don't just mean like a specific job title.
Right.
I focused on the feelings I wanted to experience at work.
Okay, like what?
Like a sense of purpose, a feeling of curiosity,
Yeah.
being able to express myself creatively.
Okay.
So I wrote it all down, even made a vision board with pictures that kind of captured those feelings. And I started using affirmations every day.
You were really setting the stage, huh?
I was. But the real game changer was when I started taking action.
Oh.
Remember we were talking about intuition, that gut feeling?
Yeah.
Well, I started paying attention to those little nudges.
Like what?
Well, a friend mentioned this workshop,
Okay.
and it was on a topic I'd always been kind of fascinated by, but never really explored.
Right.
But for some reason, I felt drawn to it.
So did you go?
I did, and it was amazing. It totally reignited my passion for learning.
Wow.
And I met all these people who were doing the kind of work I'd always dreamed of.
No way.
Yeah. And, one thing led to another. I ended up getting offered a job.
Get out.
And it was like perfectly aligned with everything I'd been visualizing.
That's incredible.
It really was.
So the universe, totally had your back.
It really felt like it. But, it all started with me taking that first step.
Right. Trusting your gut, putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
This is such a cool story. And it really proves how powerful this stuff can be, right? It's not just about wishing and hoping.
It's about aligning your energy, taking action, and trusting the process.
So to wrap things up, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
Manifestation is a real thing, but it's not magic, It's about taking control of your thoughts and actions and aligning them with your desires.
And it's a practice.
Yeah, a continuous journey.
It's about making those 5 steps. We talk about the clarity, the visualization, belief, action, gratitude, a part of your everyday life.
Exactly.
Okay, listeners, what are you going to manifest this week? Start small, be consistent, and remember what we always say. Trust the process.
Happy manifesting.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you have the power to create the life you want.